So I'm not surprising anyone by saying this, but I'm a big fan of Addicted. I really, truly am. Even made a video about it not too long ago. To say that Yinzi and Guhai's relationship got me invested would be a massive understatement, because, due to its name, the show got me addicted and has since impacted me on such a deep, profound level. I love this show and hold a lot of respect for it. It literally was the blueprint and got me into the world of BL dramas in the first place. So, when I discovered that a new adaptation under a different name aired last year, I had some thoughts. On the one hand, obviously I was gonna check the show out. That's a no-brainer. To see a new adaptation of this story was more than enough to drum up interest in me. On the other hand, I was skeptical. A part of me felt like it wasn't going to measure up to the original, that it wouldn't capture that same electrifying charisma that Yinzi and Guhai had in Addicted. Even with all the great things I've heard, I don't know, I was still nervous. But I wasn't gonna find out regardless till I watched it, so I did just that, and now I'm here to tell you all about the 2023 adaptation in question. Stay with me. Honestly, I'm just gonna get right into it. Per usual, apologizing in advance if I mispronounce any names, and letting you all know that you can find the link to the series in the description below. All on YouTube for free, we love to see it. And one more thing, spoilers. I want to emphasize this point specifically because, unlike my past two videos, I will be discussing the ending to Stay With Me. I have my reasons as to why, and I'll get into it more once we're there, but just wanted to let you guys know. I'll make it very clear before we get into the ending itself, so for now, you can take it easy. With all that said, let's do this. If you watched Addicted or read the original novels by Chai Jidan, then the basic plot of this show should be familiar to you. It revolves around two characters, Tsuyu and Woobi. Before I go any further, yes, the names are all different. While I'm not 100% sure why they did this, I feel like it's probably the same reason why they decided to go with the name Stay With Me versus Addicted. Probably wanted that surface level separation given that, well, Addicted ended up banned and cancelled by the Chinese government. I honestly have no issue with this. You get used to the names pretty quick, and it makes the character comparison across the two BLs much easier, so I'm good with this. Anyways, back to the story. Tsuyu comes from a poor background. He lives with his dad, Suji Gong, kind-hearted man that wants the best for his son, but also is a bit of a lottery addict, always hopeful that the next ticket will be the one to make the family rich. He also has back problems, which is pretty heart-wrenching to watch, but that doesn't stop him from doing his best. His mom, Xiao-san, has been out of the picture for about a decade, divorcing his dad and, at the start of the story, marrying some rich guy. In spite of the challenges though, Tsuyu makes the best with the life he has. He loves his dad, has a good relationship with family friend Zhou Li, commonly referred to as Auntie Zhou, and is particularly close with her daughter, Li Do, also known as Dodo, serving as an older brother figure to the girl. He's also really smart, like top of his class smart. So smart, in fact, that the teachers will just let him sleep in class because he already knows the material. There's also the added layer of his mom trying to get back into his life, but Tsuyu feels like he abandoned the family all those years ago and wants nothing to do with her. Meanwhile, we have Woobi on the other side of things, coming from a family of wealth. Woobi's dad, Wu Zhenghao, has also remarried recently, and Woobi does not like his new stepmom. Or his dad, for that matter. Their relationship is pretty strained and has only gotten worse ever since his biological mom unexpectedly passed away when Woobi was younger. This really affected Woobi as he loved his mom. She was an artist, and her very last creation was a statue of a boy with a mole on his ear. It was meant to be a birthday gift for the son of a family friend, but she died before getting the chance to deliver it. As such, Woobi treasures this statue, serving as a keepsake in memory of his mom. Anyways, after hearing that his dad wants to transfer his new stepson to Woobi's school, Woobi responds by secretly getting his auntie to transfer him to another school. And the school in question just so happens to be the one Suyu attends. And I don't know if it's just me, but his introduction to the class kind of sends me. He's out here in a black trench coat with the coldest expression on his face, looking like an edgy bad boy, and I just have to laugh. Later that day, the teacher sees most of the class falling asleep, so he instructs Suyu to sing for them to refresh their minds. And the song Suyu goes with is Goodbye Lonely Heart, which is a real song, by the way. Melancholic, but also really beautiful. And through Suyu's rendition of it, see Woobi engaged for the first time, as if he was reminded of something. After class ends, he asks Suyu why he likes such an old song, and also discovers that Suyu has a mole on his ear. Suyu gets irritated by Woobi suddenly touching his ear like that, to have a tense conversation, and after Woobi compares Suyu's likeness to that statue, Suyu takes offense and thinks Woobi is insulting him by implying that he has a frozen face. Suyu leaves after that, but of course, this isn't the last time these two clash. To recount, we see Woobi annoy Suyu with a toy bow and arrow, attempt to falsify Suyu's test by changing his answers, steps on his brand new shoes gifted to him by Auntie Zhou multiple times, and puts super glue on the floor of his seat in an attempt to ruin his shoes. In most situations though, Suyu is able to keep up with Woobi's nonsense and fight back. He uses that same toy bow and arrow to pop Woobi's gum and embarrass him in front of a group of girls, is still able to get a perfect score on his test due to his teacher knowing it was falsified, puts some dark powder on the paper Woobi wipes his face with, and, most impressively, uses his knowledge of chemicals to create the right mixture needed to dissolve the super glue on his shoes. A literal genius, like the smartest guy in school. Eventually, Woobi's dad proposes that his stepson move in, which causes Woobi to snap and move out, taking the statue with him before leaving. On the other side of things, Suyu's dad wants to earn more money so that he can buy his son a new school uniform and picks up a job as a mover. And just like that, he's hired to move the boxes into Woobi's new apartment. And it's here where Woobi takes a liking to Suyu's dad. They form a connection and ultimately share details about their lives. Though not named in the conversation, it's really sweet how the dad speaks of Suyu here, praising his son's accomplishments. Though he also puts himself down in the process and feels like he's not doing enough, and I'm just like, no, stop. You're already working so hard. Oh my gosh, Suyu's dad is such a sweet guy. You really want the best for him and to see him succeed. The following day, Woobi makes a discovery. While getting ready to leave in a taxi, He sees Suyu and his dad together and follows them to Auntie Zhou's food stall, where they help her close up while getting rained on. This whole time, Wooby has been terrorizing Suyu only to realize that he's the son of the man who he formed a genuine connection with. Suffice to say, Wooby changes his tune on Suyu pretty quickly. In fact, when Suyu gets surrounded by these bums that want to beat him up, Wooby comes to the rescue and he wipes the floor with them. Oh my goodness, straight up beats their asses into retreat, and it's absolutely glorious. What an icon. And with that act of heroism, Suyu finally starts to soften to Wooby as a person. After heading back to Suyu's place, Wooby and Suyu's dad agree to keep each other's secret from Suyu. The secret of his dad working an extra job, and the secret of Wooby's identity as someone coming from wealth, instead pretending to be the son of the dad's good friend. And it's here where the story's foundation comes together. A tale of a found family, of the love and kindness Suyu's dad and Auntie Zhou have for their kids and for one another. A tale of a smart and mischievous little girl and the two older brothers that cherish her. A tale of a man and a woman trying to form their own new family in spite of the strained relationship with their sons. And, of course, a tale of two unknowing stepbrothers and the gradual warmth and closeness they share with one another. A tale going by the name of Stay With Me. You guys, I feel like a complete fool for ever doubting this show, because it's nothing short of amazing. Oh my god, Stay With Me is absolutely incredible. It captured me immediately and got me so invested in these characters. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. Suyu and Wooby's chemistry in this? Like, hello? So gripping and electrifying. The way they tease and play with each other, the softer moments between them, Wooby's immediate jealousy whenever someone else tries to take Suyu from him. All of it is just chef's kiss. I'm obsessed with the sheer charisma these two have. Their story and growth together is so captivating, and one that warmed my heart so many times. And while Suyu and Wooby are at the forefront of this story, it would be criminal of me to not mention the supporting cast as well, because they also got me invested. I chatted a bit about Suyu's dad already, but just want to make it clear that this man is such a good parent. Maybe a bit much with the lottery addiction, but overall a kind-hearted man that looks out for his son and his well-being. Another great single parent and someone close to Suyu's dad is Auntie Zhou. She's just as compassionate, a fantastic cook, and a great mom to Dodo. Speaking of Dodo, so adorable. And pretty smart too. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she grows up to be just as intelligent as Suyu. Sometimes she can be a bit naughty, but overall has a big heart and is never afraid to speak her mind. Her dynamic with Suyu and Wooby is so heartwarming. They play together, read stories to her. They basically become her big brothers, and I'm so here for it. There wasn't really a character like Dodo in the original, so just wanted to say that she's a wonderful addition to the cast. And then there's Suyu's mom and Wooby's dad. Don't want to get too much into them for spoiler's sake, but there's definitely more to these two than meets the eye. Learning more about them throughout the show and the specifics that made their sons dislike them so much was pretty intriguing. And, of course, who could forget the classmates of Suyu and Wooby? Now, this isn't meant to be a comparison video between Addicted and Stay With Me, as I would like Stay With Me to have its own dedicated video. But if we were to bring Addicted up for a bit, then you'd remember two certain supporting characters that acted as classmates to the main duo, Yang Mang and Yo Chi. For this new adaptation, I think the counterparts here are Han Bo Kwan and Mao Chong. Han Bo Kwan is the childhood friend of Su Yu, and Mao Chong is Su Yu's deskmate. One plot point with these two involves Han Bo Kwan getting a crush on this Taiwanese girl named Go Xiaoru, who in turn has a crush on Mao Chong, who is not interested whatsoever. I'm not going to spoil how they resolve that arc within the show, but I will say that it's pretty ridiculous. These two are kind of unserious, all things considered, but I love them both nonetheless. The last character I'll bring up is Jiang Yao. Okay, she's kind of a minor character, but hear me out. She is the audience surrogate of Stay With Me. She's one of the few people that catches on to Su Yu and Wooby's blossoming relationship, and she reacts to it the same way we're probably reacting to it, with joy and delight. Suffice to say, she's a Fujoshi, and also one of us. And for that, she's an icon, a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now. Hats off to this queen, she deserves it. Besides the cast, I could mention so many more things. The lovely soundtrack, great cinematography, general setting, all fantastic. I also really like how this show commits to being set in the mid-2000s. Seeing the more dated phones and bulky computers really adds to the overall atmosphere. I honestly have very few negatives to say, really. There are a few moments where the audio cuts off, but at this point I feel like that's more of a YouTube issue than anything else, since I had the same issue with other BLs on YouTube. Could be that the show used some music that got flagged for copyright, causing those segments to be muted as a result. That's just my guess. The only other thing that stands out in my mind is a later episode where Su Yu and Wooby visit the beach, and, well, it's pretty obvious that this is a green screen. If you're familiar with Addicted's Walk Slowly music video, then you'd know that Yinzi and Guhai also go to the beach, and it's so much better there because they're actually at a real beach. So yeah, if I were to nitpick, that would be the one negative that comes to mind. What genuinely makes me happy and excited about Stay With Me though, is the fact that this is undisputably a BL. Now, I know in my previous video we talked about a BL that, at a surface level, leaned more toward the bromance side of things, with ample amounts of subtext being supplemented to drive home the idea that this is supposed to be gay. With Stay With Me, however, there is no subtext or ambiguity for that matter. The YouTube title makes it clear, the tags make it clear, we literally see Su Yu and Wooby kiss on the show. Now granted, these are mainly just quick kisses on the cheek, with the exception of one that's hidden from us, but still, the fact that we're able to get a Chinese BL in 2023 that's this transparent in its identity is so nice and really makes me happy. So kudos to the team behind Stay With Me for making that happen. You guys are awesome. Having said all that, there is one more thing I need to cover, and you all probably know what that is. Yes, the ending. For this particular BL, I just have to talk about it. I really do. Which means that if you don't want to be spoiled, I would suggest clicking off this video. We're basically near the end, with the remainder being about the ending and topics relating to it. So please, take this as your final warning, as we're now at the point of no return. All good? Okay, for everyone else still here, let's get into it. So while I was doing my supporting cast roundup, there was one character in particular that I didn't mention, Mo Yi. He's Wooby's cousin from his mom's side, and I don't want to spend too much time on the Mo family in general, but just know that they're really wealthy and also pretty unhinged. Mo Yi is no exception. He's not the most pleasant person to be around and grows to despise Wooby's relationship with Suyu, given that Suyu isn't even part of the family. And once he finds a picture of Suyu and Mo Yi's girlfriend sitting together, that pretty much gives Mo Yi the excuse he needs to get rid of Suyu for good. So, he messes with Suyu's car so that the next time Suyu drives it, a quote, accident, unquote, will happen. What Mo Yi didn't anticipate happening, however, is Wooby deciding to drive for Suyu that day. So, the two are on the road, and the brakes stop working. Wooby does his best to control the situation and not worry Suyu, but eventually he sees a biker crossing the road and, in an attempt to not hit him, crashes the car into a truck. Suyu comes out of the crash okay, but Wooby is very injured. Though the ambulance gets stuck in traffic, Suyu carries Wooby with all his might and eventually finds the ambulance, where they take the two to the hospital. There we see Suyu with the doctor, but don't get to hear what he says about Wooby's condition. And the show's very last scene ends with Suyu and Wooby's home, so full of life and laughter, now silent and empty. Wooby's possessions remain, but those owned by Suyu and the rest of the family are gone. And the final shot of the series is of the place where Suyu, Wooby, and Dodo all buried their written wishes, only to be dug up and revealed in 10 years. As you can guess, this ending broke my heart. I was crying my eyes out when first watching it, and can only barely compose myself even discussing it now. I will say though that there's an extended version of this ending that was ultimately cut. There, we can hear the doctor say that Wooby's temporarily out of danger and now in the intensive care unit, as well as a scene between Suyu and Mo Yi, where Suyu states that he'll never leave Wooby. This version is a bit better in that it's not as hard of a gut punch, but regardless, it still feels like a gut punch. The future for Suyu and Wooby was looking bright. Suyu got a direct admission to a top university, and Wooby's score on the college entrance exam got him one step closer to enrolling into the Air Force and Astronautics College, which is a dream for him as he eventually wants to become an astronaut. They also reconciled with their parents, not to mention all the great success Suyu's dad and Auntie Jo got with the restaurant. Everything was going so well. And then the ending happened. To see these two go through something as traumatic as this is just... I couldn't handle it. It devastated my heart. And look, I'm not here trying to say that this ending never should have happened. From what I've heard, this was basically how book 1 ended. As heartbreaking as the ending was, I would have been okay with it if we were getting a season 2. But that's the thing, we don't know if we're getting one. The closest piece of news we got was an announcement that season 2 would be adapted into a voice actor stage play, and that it would be a cross between a radio drama and a stage drama. They also said that this would be an in-person event with no plans at this time to make it accessible online, so unless they decide to change their minds later on, international audiences won't be able to even see this stage play. There's so many questions swirling in my mind about this announcement, but I guess the most important one is, does this imply that we're not getting a proper season 2 of Stay With Me? Or is there still hope? I think the best answer I found concerning this topic was by a Reddit user named looseleafpaper77, who was also the one to break the news about the voice actor stage play. I'll provide a screen cap of their response here, so feel free to pause and read through it all, but basically, we just don't know for sure. Nothing is confirmed, nothing is cancelled, but it's not entirely unexpected for C-dramas to just not have a second season, even with no official cancellation announcement. So, I guess there's hope? But truthfully, I'm much more skeptical than hopeful. There's nothing I'd want more than to be proven wrong. I am desperate for a second season of this show, but I feel like it's just not gonna happen. First Addicted, now Stay With Me. I swear this story is cursed. And I feel like this time it really stings because of how Stay With Me ended. You mean to tell me that this is the last time we get to see Suyu and Woobi, all injured and traumatized? Like, for fuck's sake, if there was no real certainty that season 2 was gonna happen, they could have at least ended it on a happier note. They could have taken this ending and pushed it into the beginning of season 2. Maybe have season 1 end with Suyu and Woobi together at the school field, happy and content with one another. If that would have happened, maybe my heart wouldn't have shattered as much as it did. But here we are. So yeah, I'm still currently reeling from that ending. But please, make no mistake when I say that Stay With Me is a phenomenal BL. It made me feel so many emotions, made me so invested in these characters, and gave me an experience that I could never forget. While Stay With Me does have its differences to Addicted, that's not a bad thing. Quite the contrary, Stay With Me was able to carve its own identity while still following the core story. The way it was able to introduce new elements like Dodo and the statue storyline and integrate it so seamlessly into the overall narrative is something that I really love about this adaptation. The changes or additions always felt natural, and for that, I must give Stay With Me its rightful kudos. If I were to make this comparison as basic as possible, I would say that Addicted and Stay With Me are like two cakes. They may be flavored a bit differently, or have different decorations, but that doesn't change the fact that both cakes are absolutely delicious. Some may prefer one over the other, but honestly, I'm not gonna make that choice right now. Maybe I'll revisit it after I watched both back to back, but for now, I see Stay With Me as an equal to Addicted. It managed to surpass expectations and really stand alongside Addicted as one of the greats. While a season 2 for this incredible show might not happen, I am nonetheless grateful to have experienced a show that, once again, left me addicted. And I have no doubt that this experience will always stay with me in my broken heart.